talking Joe podcast, minds in motion. Talk about relationships, help your emotions. Behavior management when your kids start to losing it. Talk about life and all the confusion. Minds in motion. Minds in motion. Talk about relationships. I'm talking Joe podcast, minds in motion. Talk about relationships, help your emotions. Behavior management when your kids start to losing it. Talk about life and all the confusion. Minds in motion. Minds in motion. Talk about relationships. Emotion. Minds in motion. Talk about relationships.
Good evening and welcome to Minds in Motion with me, your host, Jewel. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone who is going to be on all the platforms tonight. So I have some news for you before I get started. Tonight, I'm going to be on some new networks. Yes, that's exciting. So I'm going to be on GTM Radio, and that is... GTM Radio is Global Talk and Music. I'm also going to be live on SBE Radio. That's streaming live in Toronto. I should say not on Toronto, in Toronto. And also the regular platforms that we have. Oh, Twitch. Twitch is also new. So we are on Twitch. And Twitch tonight is going to be TDN Network. So Twitch/TDN Network. It's exciting for us because we're expanding. We're getting out there to reach new ears and to bring awareness to new people. We're also on Facebook, TDN TV, and we're also on YouTube, TDN. We're on my YouTube, Minds in Motion Wellness, and TDN Radio, sorry. So tonight we're doing part 2 of Let's Talk About Autism. And we have the same guest that we had on before because she has a lot more to say this time about living in a world as an autistic person. Today we have Pookie back with us. And there is that number that you can text. It just came across the screen. That number is 1647-495-3224 if you'd like to send in a question for myself or for the guest Pookie. So welcome back to Minds in Motion. Pookie, welcome. Yes, so I'm going to have my guest working tonight. Go ahead, Pookie.
Thank you.
Okay. So Pookie's back, and I have some very specific questions to her. Pookie, if you can just remind the listening audience and the viewing audience where you're from, who you are, and what brought you to Minds in Motion. So your name?
My name is Jessica. My name is Jessica, but you can call me Pookie.
Yes. And you are where? Where are you at, Pookie?
I'm in London, in the UK.
Right. So thank you so much. So right now it is very, very late in London, the UK. It's 11th. It's actually midnight right now. It's 12:05 a.m. in the morning, and Pookie has graciously stayed up to be on Minds in Motion. Okay. So I'm going to just start off just by asking you questions, Pookie. So I have very specific questions that I want to ask that I didn't get to ask you the last time. So the first question we're going to start off the evening with is just living as a person with autism, right? I want to talk about the sensory experiences that you have. And sometimes the volume of life could describe your sensory world through metaphor, right? So it could be described through like a dial, a radio dial, or crowded room. What does that feel like? A typical day feel like for you?
A typical day will feel like walking through a crowded shopping mall where everyone's shouting all at once and you're trying to find a specific store and having to navigate chaos while filtering the noise and focusing. Um, my goal is to try all while trying to be keeping from being overwhelmed.
Right. So there's a lot of things happening around in your external world or your world that you're walking through, and like you're hearing conversations, maybe a parent talking to their child, you hear the register going off, you're hypersensitive to sound. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Thank you. So you know what, we have there's some feedback happening tonight, and this is why we're asking Pookie to mute and unmute. So we're gonna be patient and have her mute and unmute when she's answering questions tonight, okay? And so Pookie, I know that we talked about very specific questions, but you feel free to just speak who you really are, right? You don't need to read off a script or anything. Just feel free to be who you are. We've spoken a lot of times. I'm very, I think I'm warm and welcoming. So I think, can you, this is not one of the questions, but can you explain to the listening audience and the viewing audience why you might need or want to have questions prepared?
I would like to have questions well prepared so that I don't feel overwhelmed or be made to feel on the spot where I have to suddenly have to think about the question and take time to visualize it in my head.
Right. Thank you for that. So
Thank you.
I know Pookie and I were talking before, and oh, look at that. We have a London Massive checking in. Hello. Hello. We have someone from London, UK checking in. Thank you so much. So as Pookie was saying, that she has to prepare herself to she doesn't want to be caught off guard, and and to be answering the questions the right way. And I just asked a lot of questions, and sometimes it's you're trying to file things in order of sequence of how I asked you those questions. And sometimes when it's overwhelming, it's too much, and the delivery, so the message is not being delivered the same way. So we have to think about that and be mindful when we're working with younger people and also older people who have learned to master how to communicate, right? Oh, Pookie, you have fans. All right. So the next question I have for you is, we often talk, okay, so I'm going to start it with a preface, right? We often talk about sensory overload. So we just talked about that. But what about sensory joy? What is a sound, texture, or sight that makes you feel like pure dopamine for you, giving you joy?
Can you explain dopamine?
Dopamine. So we talked about the dopamine. So like when people play a video game, they feel really, really excited and they feel good. So it's a good feeling, something that makes you feel good and excited. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay. When I hear people on TikTok being so positive towards me, and I get happy to see good positive views and showing me knowledge, that I get to share my knowledge with them. Also, the sound of the rain, especially a gentle, steady rain, is also a sensory joy for me, as it calms my mind and washes away anxiety and stress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also love like blankets. I like the feeling of the texture on my skin, as it provides comfort and warmth. And I also enjoy the sight of a rainbow, as it visualizes um, like a feast, and it excites me with
Mm-hmm.
the multitude of colors, and the breath is breathtaking and very spectacular, and it fills me with sense of peace and gratitude.
How you explain those with details. You gave descriptions of what the sensory was. So touch, right? Touch was the blanket. You gave description of sight. So when you see the rainbow, it makes you feel this way. And the rain, sound. So a lot of us have these sensory issues sometimes, and we may not be able to explain it or express it. But people, obviously, people with autism or autistic people have a more heightened sense of sensory objects or sound, sight, sound, and even taste sometimes, right? I've worked with students that they only want to eat certain types of foods with certain textures because if it's too mushy or smells a certain way, they don't want it, right? They don't want it. And then they oftentimes become into a routine where they're only eating that type of food or drinking that type of beverage. Is that true for yourself? I'm deviating from the questions. Is that true for yourself? Yes. All right. Do you wanna elaborate?
Um, I I only like to eat a certain texture. If it's the certain texture, I can't. I won't eat it. Like, it has to be a certain texture for me to eat it, and if it smells funny, and
Mm-hmm.
I will only eat something if it looks good as well.
So
So
you
I
taste
can't.
with your eyes as well.
I can't go into a restaurant and look at the menu and say that, like, I previously went to a restaurant, uh, a Moroccan restaurant, with my friend,
Yeah.
and we were all looking at the menu, and I didn't know what it was, but when I saw a lady on the table, she had some food prepared, and it was so finely decorated with the flowers and everything. Then I wanted it as well.
Nice. I like that. I like how you describe that because that is definitely living in your world, right? Living in your world. Um, so we're talking about sense. We're still on the topic of sensory. We're going to move on to something after. Um, so most people filter out background noise, right? So for me, tonight, especially, there's a feedback that's happening. So this is why I'm asking Pookie to go on mute. There's a feedback that's happening, and I'm hearing this background noise, but I'm able to filter it out and still focus on what is being said and what I'm saying, right? But how much how conscious are how much of a conscious effort do you have to make to process the environment around you?
Basically, it depends where I am and who I'm with, and who I
Mhm.
feel comfortable, the environment I feel comfortable in, because I like to be prepared of what is to be said. Um, like I went to a nine night, and I wasn't expecting to be touched. So I was a bit like, I don't know how to explain it.
Put off or thrown off?
Put off, yeah, but I had to. I, um, that my aunties didn't understand that how I was feeling
Right.
because they were so busy with the 9 nights. So I had to just go into a different room.
Okay. And so I think when you are interacting with persons who have autism, it's very important to even ask them how they feel. Is it too loud? Um, are the lights bothering you? Things like that. You would ask someone, just for clarification, right? Because we don't know. Sometimes they may not want to tell you what's triggering them, and they may not even be aware of that being this specific trigger. But just asking, is it too loud? Is it too bright? Just asking those questions, I think, would help. Am I correct, Pookie?
Yes, you are, Miss.
All right. This Jewel is fine. I'm Jewel. I love the fact that you're so professional and respectful. But you can call me Jewel. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to go on to the category or the topic of social navigation now. And I heard you a few times this week talk about wanting to be able to communicate better. And this is something that is one of your goals, right? And so there's an unwritten rule book, right? When did you first realize that there was a social script that everyone else seemed have given, and maybe you didn't receive that social script? When did you realize that there was an unwritten rule about how to communicate?
Well, I prefer to follow my own script rather that way. I was sure to. I preferred to follow my own script. That way, I was sure to feel known to what to expect. I was never wanting to be like anyone else or copy anyone else to fit in or stand out. I always wanted to stand out from the crowd, and that made me feel good. If And I think it feels like wearing an uncomfortable clothing or like wearing the wrong shoe size, and then you have it on all day, and then you have to when you go home the feeling to take it off, or like
Yes.
walking around in high heels.
Great
or
analogies. I like that. I like that.
or like the feeling where you want to wear like you you see you see like when you're wearing a bra all day and then you just take it off and then you just feel relaxed.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
A sign of relief. So
Yes.
it's basically being in an uncomfortable situation, walking through
Like,
social situations,
yes.
life, right? Okay. So the last time you were here, you mentioned masking or having to put on a mask. Can you describe what that's like for you to have to literally act things out, perform for people?
Yes, I can. Most people they say I like attention, but I only do it to try to fit in with the crowd. And
Mhm.
I've been having to do it for a long time, so I'm kind of used to it by now because the Caribbean background ethnicity, as I said previously, there was no such thing as autism or ADHD or any of the other disabilities known to them. They just took it as behavior problems or um disrespectful.
Right. And that's what I hear a lot. I see that a lot even with the kids that I work with. They don't look into, a lot of parents don't look into it further. Um, they don't take the child to the doctor to get the child diagnosed or even assessed, right? So, starting off, if you're noticing some signs with your child from an early age, the best thing to do is to get a pediatric assessment done. So, go to the doctor and say, I'd like to have a pediatric assessment. And in that pediatric assessment, the doctor will be testing the eyesight, hearing, blood tests. Pookie and I were just talking about this backstage that oftentimes kids that have autism and also ADHD, because we mentioned that in a previous show, they often have low iron levels, and that needs to be checked out. And because they're having low iron levels, they're low in melatonin, and that prevents them from sleeping and prevents them from functioning the way that they should in a normal, quote unquote, uh, atmosphere, social atmosphere. So if they're going to school, they're expected to be alert and not falling asleep. They're expected to participate and not be over stimulated by things, right? But not everyone, it's not a cookie cutter a world that we live in. Everyone is made differently. So we need to just find out what that is and take the child for a diagnosis or an assessment, right? So communication styles. What is something that neurotypical people, so someone that has autism, something that they do in conversations that genuinely confuses or confuses you? Is there things that people do in conversation that confuse you? So go ahead.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
So, what is something that neurotypical people, so quote unquote, someone that doesn't have autism, let's say, okay?
Does that confuses me?
Yeah, something that they do that confuses you.
When they seem to struggle to, what they do, they say, why can't you be like everybody else? Or they say to you, you've got so many personalities. Who you going to be today?
Yeah.
And what are your personalities' names? And why can't you talk like everybody else?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, you're not everybody else. You're Pookie, right? You are
Yeah.
who you are. And so you're not going to talk like everybody else. And you're not going to behave like everybody else. And that's something that people that don't have autism, people that are working with people with autism, or have a family member that has autism, needs to be more understanding of your abilities and what's going on in your head and trying to find out, asking questions, seeking questions. So something that I realize with people that have autism is that maybe if there's a joke that's being told and they don't like it's there's a lot of double meanings to it, they may not get or understand the joke, right? It has to be straightforward. So typically there isn't they're not understanding, there's no gray areas, they're not going to understand jokes more times than not. They won't understand certain jokes. So there's either you tell it like it is or they're not going to understand, right? Like straightforward. Does that make sense to you, Pookie? Like, am I?
It makes sense perfectly. It's perfectly a description of me.
Okay.
Because I never understood funny. And then when I spoke, people will say, you're so funny. But I wasn't trying to be funny. I was trying to just be Just be no, just be straight to the point.
Yeah.
But
And that's
like
something else.
people
Go ahead.
say, I don't have no filter. That's what they will often say.
Right. But we actually had this conversation the other day, and I was saying to you, I like the fact that you are very straightforward, and you tell it like it is. Because some people, they skirt around a topic, and they go around and round in circle about something rather than being straightforward. They will kind of deviate from what they really want to say to save the other person's feelings. I love the fact that people with autistic people, they just tell it like it is. If you have a big forehead, they're gonna say you have a big forehead, right? If they say, you have, you have big lips, they're just gonna say you have big lips, you know. And it's not really that they're trying to be rude or disrespectful. It's something that they notice and they're just saying it. Is that something that you are working on as well? I know we were talking about that, I think, on the
Yes.
weekend.
Yes.
Mhm. Do you want to elaborate a little bit?
No.
No. Okay. See, this is what I love about Pookie. She would just tell you yes or no. And this is why I think people that are autistic are they're very honest people, right? Very honest. You're not gonna you're typically not gonna get someone that's autistic that's gonna lie to you. They're gonna tell you the truth more than not, right? They'll tell you exactly what it is. If they would even tell on themselves, right? They did something wrong, and they will just say, "I did it. Yes, I did." I took the cookies from the cookie jar, because if a little child was taking cookies and they weren't supposed to, and then there were crumbs all over their face, and they kind of snuck off, and then you said, "Did you take the cookie from the cookie jar?" This is just an example. And then they can't lie. They would just say, "Yes," and the cookie crumbs are right there, so there's no lying anyways. So do you have anything that you experienced as a child that you were like blatantly honest about, and you might have gotten scolded for?
I've always wanted to know what people were thinking, and when I tell them I didn't like something, how they behaved, that's when they I think they said you should have said it at that time.
You shouldn't have said it at that time.
Yes.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask another question here. Um, um, so what is your curse? So we're going to get into passions and hyper focus. So things that you're passionate about and hyper focus on. So we're going to learn a little bit more about the artistic mind and things that they might hyper focus on, or what hyper focusing looks like with someone that has autism, right? Special interests are often heartbeats of the artistic experience. What is your current deep dive or interest that you have? And okay, I'm going to ask a question at a time. So what is your current interest, something that you're really interested in?
I'm really interested in animals.
Yeah. And I was actually going to say that, but I wanted you to answer for me. I knew that. And
Oh,
so which animal in particular?
I love all animals.
Okay. And so you acquired a pet yourself not too long ago,
I sure did.
right? And so your pet is a pet cat?
Cats, yes.
Yes. So do you do research a lot about cats, or do you just like, I have a cat? Do you just say I have a cat and that's just my pet right now? Or do you do more research and say, maybe I want another cat?
Well,
No?
I've been thinking about getting another cat for him, but I don't know. I don't. I have to. I was thinking because I don't want to give him social anxiety or make him feel a way like you got somebody else and my time is it was all a plus. It's like having a child and then getting another sibling,
Mm-hmm.
and then you haven't like. Well, I can't tell him I'm gonna get another cat because he won't understand. But if he
Right.
sees me giving the other cat more attention, he's gonna get upset.
Yeah. And this is something, okay. And
Because
so, yeah, go ahead.
I take him on play dates with other cats,
Mm-hmm.
and when he sees me picking them up, he hisses at them.
Mm. He's jealous.
Yes.
So did you know, listening audience and viewers, did you know that animals can also be jealous? If you don't have a pet yourself, did you know that? Well, you just learned something new from Pookie. So Pookie, you said that you're interested in animals. Are there any animals? What animals in particular are you interested besides cats? Is there any other animals?
I've been looking into sea life animals.
Sorry, what type of animals?
Sea life. CSEA
Oh, sea
life.
life.
Yes.
So,
Turtles,
one, okay,
fishes, like that.
okay. So are you looking at maybe getting an aquarium?
No. No, no,
Just
no.
learning about them.
Yes.
Okay.
Like going I want to go to swim with them, the turtles like that.
Okay, that's even a deeper interest.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to mention something, Pookie, and then you tell me if you ever experienced this when you were younger or if you're experiencing this now as an adult. So, having a deeper interest in something, an activity or um, just an interest in something. So sometimes people with autism tend to hyper focus on things. So for example, a lot of kids that have autism that I know, people, um, they are interested in the transit system. So they know a lot about trains, what train lines and train stops there are. They know all of them. Maybe they might have a hyper interest in cars, vehicles, and they know all of the names of the vehicles. They might even hyper fixate or have a hyper interest on, like I said, animals. And if it's a cat, they might know all of the cats, like all of the species. And same for dogs, right? Is there anything that you really know a lot about that you hyper fixate on?
I say cats because I did my research before I got a cat,
Mm,
and I didn't just get any breed. I actually looked into it before I got the cat, and I got this cat for a specific reason
okay.
because they are autism friendly cats.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So I'm just looking at some questions here, Pookie. that people were sending. People who were saying things like, good, that's a good example of when you spoke about, I think when you were talking about, I don't know exactly when that was at that point, but they said good example, and they're asking about the feedback. So they probably also have that situation where they are having a difficult time drowning out the background noise, right? Okay, so let me hide that question. And I'm seeing if there's any more there. No, not at the moment. All right, so right now, Pookie, I just want to say, I'm just going to talk to the viewers for a second, and then I'm going to come back to you. I want to again thank everyone for tuning in on Facebook, TDN TV, on YouTube, TDN TV, on Twitch, TDN TV, on Instagram, and on our new networks. So our new networks are GTM Radio. Thank you for listening in. SBE Radio. Thank you for listening in as well. And please send your questions if you have any questions that you'd like to ask. Okay. All right. So Pookie, we're back. All right. Oh, and we also have that phone number for you. If you'd like to send a text, please do send a text to 1-647-495-3224. All right. All right, Pookie. So let's help the listeners and the viewers understand a little bit about your life and your environment. What does a perfectly regulated environment look like to you? Or is there such a thing?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
What does a perfectly regulated environment look like to you?
Multiplism question.
Sorry?
Is that the multiplism?
Yes, it is. It's the one after that, life and environment. I think I skipped one. Life and environment. Or do you want me to go back to the other one, the first one?
The multiplism.
Yes, okay. So the monotropism, often autistic brains are often described as monotrophic, right? Which is focusing deeply on one thing. How does that intensely shape how you see the world compared to others?
Okay. I see the world like a jigsaw puzzle, and the pieces are just floating around in space, waiting to be fitted into place. I tend to focus intently on single interests or activities, profoundly shaping my perception of the world, which can lead to deep, unique insights within the chosen area of interest. However, it can also result in challenges and shifting attention, finding it difficult for me to multitask.
Okay. So you just now you gave a description of the world floating like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yes.
Did people know that one of the symbols for autism is a jigsaw puzzle or a puzzle? Did you know that, Pookie?
Yes.
Yes. So it just as you described it, so almost like the picture in the background, things are floating around. Put me on mute on your end, or put yourself on mute there. So things are floating around, and in Pookie's mind, she's trying to put things together because things are floating around. And I like how she described that so eloquently, right? We sometimes take things for granted. Um, we can listen to music, we can do our work, we can maybe focus on what the teacher is saying as well, or what a presenter is saying, and move through our world seamlessly. But the autistic brain or the autistic person will have to step back and put things into pieces to understand their world. Just now, I was trying to move ahead with a question. Great example. I was trying to move ahead with a question, and I had promised Pookie that I would stay in line with those questions. And I had to remember this is something that was organized and already preset for her, that I have to now. I can shift, but in my mind, it's easier for me. I can shift. But because Pookie's already thought of her answers and she's prepared herself, she needs to be doing it in a sequence. And thank you for reminding me of that, Pookie. Right? Now we're moving on to the next question. What does a perfectly regulated environment look like to you?
A perfectly regulated environment.
Do you want me to describe it a little bit more?
Yes, please.
Okay, so regulated. So we just talked about, put me on mute, or put yourself on mute. Sorry. We just talked about different things in the environment that might affect your focus, right? So a perfectly regulated environment might be something like quiet, right? The noise level. Maybe there's no ultraviolet lights. Maybe there's like a mood light, right? Maybe there's calming music that's being played in your environment. So what is, if you can design, okay, so the next question, just let's think about that. If you can design the perfect space for yourself or a room for yourself, what would that look like or feel like?
I don't think there's ever a perfect space, because in the world we live in, there's always going to be some confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go through the world whether you like it or not. So I tend to wear noise cancelling headphones when I enter outside to block out the noises.
Yeah. I was hoping you would say something like that. I was hoping you would say that. Thank you for saying that.
You're very welcome.
So a lot of the students that I work with, we take it for granted that people are all the same and we hear the same and we all have the same needs. In our world, we have to practice equity, right? What's good for me may be not good for you. So you might need more, right? So your noise canceling headphones, or a student that I'm working with, if we offer them noise canceling headphones, and that's something that it's a tool to help you navigate yourself through the world, right? It's not that we're giving you a special privilege, it's that you need that in order to function in this world, right? To block out some noises. So thank you for that. So sometimes you might see, if people that are listening, they might have seen people walking around with these headphones. So nowadays they look almost like they're listening to music, so they can blend in more with people, and they're not going to stand out, and they're not going to look silly. Oftentimes, just today I asked a student, like, do you want to use these headphones? And he said no. And I said, why? And the answer was, I don't want people to look at me funny. I don't want people to think that I'm weird. And it's not about looking weird. It's about your needs. And that's what I was explaining to him. Your needs are your needs, and they're going to be different from Tom, Jim, and Bill. Their needs are all different, right? What you need is to protect yourself and advocate for what you need, right? And that's something that you need to teach your kids. For those of you who are listening, teach your children to advocate for their needs and for what they need in their classroom environment. And also, as parents, you need to advocate for those things for your children as well. Okay? All right. The diagnosis journey, we talked a little bit about that the last show. How did getting a diagnosis change the way you talk about yourself or talk to yourself about who you are?
I was able to embrace my identity, to connect with more people who are also share the same experiences with me,
Mm-hmm.
and it unlocked a deep understanding of personal strengths and challenges, and it provided a name and explanation for the lifelong struggles that I had to deal with throughout my life. I was able to replace the negative talk with acceptance.
Mm.
It also gave me the motion to speak out to the motivation to speak out to individuals who felt comfortable with accepting me for who I am and to advocate on my behalf so I'm not misunderstood online.
I love that, Pookie. That means a lot to me. I I don't want anyone to wait as long as Pookie waited. I don't want anyone to have to wait as long as Pookie waited. Right, Pookie? So now that you know what the diagnosis is, and you can connect with people that are like you, like-minded people, younger people, older people, I hope that you would encourage them to get a diagnosis so there is a name for what's happening to them. And it's not just you're different or you're, for lack of better words, that people use that is not nice. You're weird. I don't like that. I rather you get an assessment, a doctor to assess you, um, to tell you what's happening with yourself or with your child. Now, in Canada, and you can speak on it a little bit about what's happening in the UK, but in Canada, once a child is diagnosed with a disability, they can register that child with that disability, and there's support, there's financial support at least to support parents who have a child with a disability. So you can get a tax break. All right. So there's money that's given to you, a disability tax benefit. Okay. And also with autism, there's an autism fund that is given to parents to seek out services, right? I can't put the dollar amount on it anymore because our politicians have changed things. Our government has changed things where it's less now, but there was a lot of money that was given towards autism and autism awareness and for programs. So don't wait until your child is older, into their 20s, and now to say, let's get a diagnosis. Because you would have missed out on all of those years of benefits that you could have had financially, also supportive systems, right? So programs that you can go to with parents that have children that are autistic as well. Okay, Pookie, I'm going to turn it to you because you're my guest tonight, and tell us about how you help? Are you helping other people to get diagnosed?
Sorry?
Are you helping other people to get diagnosed? Like people that in your circle that you've met?
No,
No? Okay.
because they have already been diagnosed.
Okay. And so in that group of friends or circle of people, you support people. You support yourselves, right? Your support network.
Yes.
Okay. Um, so what I really wanted to ask you, I forgot. I wanted to ask you um, about the financial aspect. So as a child, do you know anything like now that you're older, it might be different, but was there any finances available when you were younger?
Um, for me, I can't talk about other people, but for me, I wasn't I wasn't um, as I previously said, Caribbean people didn't want their kids to be diagnosed with autism or labeled, or they would think that it would include social services or problems in their life. So I never, my family always provided, and I always had. I wasn't without anything. Um, so I never knew about benefits before. But when I turned adult,
Hmm.
um, I always knew I had autism, but when I got adult, I had to seek the help myself.
Okay. All right. So
And with autism, being an adult, it's not a lot that they give you, and there's not a lot of support, like structure, like you have to like know who to reach out to.
right. That's similar for here in Canada as well. I'm glad to know that you had a great
Like if you know the connection links, and you have to know who to talk to, because they don't help you. You're just left to wonder.
okay. So you hear that? Make sure you get the right connections. Put you in, yes. Make sure you get the right connections, the right network of people to communicate with as your child or as yourself as you get older to keep in contact with in order to get the proper services. Um, don't miss out on the younger years, the early years of autism, where there's more funding. In Canada, um, in Ontario specifically, there is funding, as I said, until maybe about 18. And then there's ODSP, Ontario Disabilities, where the child would have to apply for that maybe even 3-4 years before they turn 18 in order to be eligible for that funding. And then programming wise, there isn't much out there once they become an older adult. So take as much as you can, get as much as you can. Do not feel shame. Do not feel that it's your fault that the child is like this, right? Um, just reach out and get the networks. Contact me if you need to. I'm on Instagram on Minds in Motion. I'm also on TikTok on Minds in Motion. Um, and I have an email that I'm going to give you. It's Risden Wellness, RISDEN Wellness, WELLNESS at gmail.com. You can send me an email and then we can talk. Okay. So I'm doing some consultations. So I'm going to let Pookie go. Pookie, it's after midnight. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to talk to the audience a little bit more. But before you go, is there anything else that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Pardon?
Is there anything that you'd like to tell them about
Um, if if
awareness?
they if they found any of the information useful, or they had any certain, like, from
Oh, you went on mute. Sorry. Yeah.
sorry,
Yep.
If they found any of the information useful, or anything that I said, and they recognize it in their child or the adult, always seek help, because it could be a sign that the child may have, like, or the adult may be autistic, and they may not have known, but when they hear about other people having the same traits, then they can look into it.
All right. Thank you for that.
You're
Um,
welcome.
I know it's night. You can log off, and then I'll stay on and just talk for a bit, and I'll check you on TikTok in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you all for listening.
Yes, thank you, Pookie, for spending the time with us. It's after midnight in the UK right now, and I really appreciate speaking to you. I always appreciate speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time, for being on Minds in Motion with us.
Thank you.
All right, take care, Pookie.
Take care.
All right, so I'm gonna remove Pookie. There we go. So again, that was a great episode with Pookie from the UK. It's great to know from someone that is artistic what goes through their mind, how they're feeling on a daily basis. I think we shouldn't assume things. We should just ask questions. If we're not sure about the answers, we should ask questions. And everyone is an individual, right? Don't take the word autism or artistic and blanket everybody with that same way of thinking or way of dealing with them, because everyone is different. And that's why we call it ASD. ASD is autism spectrum disorder. So it's a spectrum. Remember when I spoke about it in part one, it is not just one way of a child or an individual being. It's a spectrum. So there's a high end and then there's a low end of the spectrum. So some people are higher functioning, like Pookie. She's high functioning. And if you met her out in the community, you would probably not even realize until she might have said or done something that you questioned, right? Many individuals with autism are very low on the spectrum. Some of them are nonverbal. There are situations where children are nonverbal and then they start to speak because they get training or they get therapy. But there are situations when people with kids that are autistic and they don't speak. Speech never comes to them. They may say one or two words that are familiar words to them, right? So we cannot, as I said, blanket everyone as the same. I want to say thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to Minds in Motion. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in on the new platforms on Twitch, on GTM Radio, on SBE Radio, and on all the other platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Thank you so much. Do not log off. You need to tune in for our next show that's coming on right now at 8 p.m. with Anthony Drago, and that is This Week in Interview. So tune in. I appreciate you all. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube. That is Minds in Motion Wellness. See you next week for another great episode with real talk, real strategies, and real situations. Take care.